Unmute. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, we've got about 20 grand we want to spend. We're calling it phase 2A to purchase a slightly higher spec water meter, and I'll touch on that shortly. So currently our annual income's between 150 and 180,000 a year. Our expenditures to run meetings in Adelaide, Hobart, Canberra, and Sydney are around 80,000 a year. So to give you insight, these meetings are about $10,000 to run, about $100 a head in Sydney, and then Adelaide's probably 3,500. But admin, website, and accounting costs are around 30,000 a year. Cadets, education resources, and the Deakin Uni sponsorship. So I'll put that in education category. It's about 40 to 50,000. And then Standards Australia, people who do attend meetings do recoup meal costs, flight costs, and accommodation costs. So I'm calling that around 10,000 a year. So if you add all those numbers up, there's not really much left at the end of the year. But yeah, I think, yeah, for a lot of people, you probably had an idea how much comes in and how much goes out, but that gives you a bit of a snapshot. I just threw that in last night because I thought people might like to know. So, sorry, I've got to go back here. Okay, so we have also arranged a meeting with the master plumbers just to try and build a bit of a stronger relationship between ourselves and the master plumbers. So there's a few of us that are meeting with the master plumbers committee next week. If anyone in the room has any questions for the master plumbers that you would like us to ask them, we've got a bit of an agenda at the moment to run through some government items that we'd like to tackle together. But if you have any suggestions or anything you'd like to know more about, then let me know and I'll bring it up at next week's meeting. Okay, so new committee members in Sydney. So this is just a bit of a thank you. So we've got Sean Wallace, who is up in Newcastle. Sean, where are you hiding? I was here. So Sean's joining us this year on the committee. And then Paul McDonald, are you here, Paul? No, Paul's not here tonight. Yeah, so thanks for getting on board and helping us out. And yeah, we need to sort of bring new people through every couple of years and yeah, keep the ideas coming in. So we did add a page to the website under, there's a committee tab, so you can see different people who are on the committee. So just as a refresher, because we probably haven't done this in a while, but Rod Ware's in charge of education. Paul Angus, if he's here, is in charge of membership. Martine, who's hiding down the back, is in charge of CPD. John Vrahimis is our secretary. And then we've got Tom Wise is in charge of technical. M, who you all know, M Doherty. So here, administration. And then Kate Jennings is our affiliate committee member. So at some stage we will be rotating that position. And we brought that position on a couple of years ago to try and bring the perspectives and ideas of our affiliate members onto the committee to, give us ideas on how we can improve to serve your interests as well as those of consultants. So if anyone goes down to Canberra, Carl Somerville's taken over running the ship down in Canberra, which again, small start at the moment, but yeah, if you're down there, Carl works for Select Consultants, but say hi to Carl if you head down to Canberra. Then we've got Ryan. A lot of you guys know Ryan from Sydney. He moved to Tassie a couple of years ago, but he's held a meeting down in Tassie, I think about a month ago, but we're going to try and have another meeting soon. I think there's about 10 guys there, which I don't know how big Tassie can get, but probably not more than 20 guys. I'm not sure, but yeah, Ryan's helping us out down in Tassie to try and get some dialogue happening down there. And then for the guys in Adelaide, Paul Lind and Derek Harris, if you haven't ever been to Adelaide, they're the two front runners, have been over there for about 25 years running the chapter over in Adelaide. So I think everyone knows, but HCAA South Australia shut down a couple of years ago. They ran the association under no name for a period of time, and then they merged with us officially middle of last year. So what that means is we're all members of the one association. We've got the same rules, the same bank account, the same fees, everything's shared. And if you're a member of Sydney, you're a member of Adelaide. So if you go to Adelaide, you can attend a meeting for free there as an associate, as an affiliate, whatever membership category you have. In Canberra, Adelaide, Hobart, wherever you are, if we're having a meeting, you're welcome there. There's no extra fees. And then the directors, the way we work now, when we rebranded, we used to be registered under New South Wales law. We're now registered under federal law. The way that changes is now previously we just had a secretary that carried the can for the association. Now we officially have directors. So if something does happen, the way it works with ASIC is if we were charged with something happening, that would mean I now run my own business and my business would have to shut down because of my role here. So it's quite a serious, the responsibilities stepped up a lot when we changed to HCAA. And Derek Harris, I'll put his picture up big because he did come to a meeting last year here, or it might have been 2 years ago. But Derek, he's been treasurer, he's been president over in Adelaide, but he's one of our directors. And then Dave Stablina, who you know, there's myself, and then there's Dave Wood. So that's the four of us at the moment. There's under the rules, there can be you can download the rules off the website. You can have up to 12 directors. And eventually we would like to have a director in each, we'd like to have someone in Canberra, someone in Hobart, and make sure that we are a truly national organisation and that it's not controlled by one state, it's controlled by the members. So yeah, anyone has any questions on that, you can talk to me after the meeting. So this one came up, this was actually sent to us by Paul over in Adelaide. The watermark certification scheme has been around a long time. There's a list on the ABCB's website you can download for exempt products. So there's certain types of dishwashers that are exempt. There's a whole series of different things. One thing that he'd heard was that water meters are being defected over in WA for not being watermarked, and they're being asked to remove them and put a breech piece in until they supply a watermarked water meter. There's very few manufacturers that have watermarked water meters, and the ones that are available, I believe, are only in smaller sizes. So normally if you hear of it in another state, pretty soon it'll be in your state. But now that I mentioned it here, it'll probably happen here. The other one that's come up as well is air release valves. So we have to put them in apartments or in hot water circulating systems now, as of the AS 3500 2018, I think they introduced them. We had Burmad, that's a Burmad valve over there. They did a talk for us 18 months ago, and these were exempt. So I've put up their air relief valves, no applicable specification. That's from 2018 when the guy did the talk here. But then we found out that as of about 2 weeks ago, that was removed from the new version of that document. And now they do have to be watermarked, but people don't sell watermarked air release valves. So apparently some states are giving exemptions for buildings that are already under construction that don't have watermarked air release valves. But it's another one of these grey areas where that's not an Australian standard. It's just an ABCB produced watermark exemption list. So if we specified a product and it was exempt, and then by the time the plumber's installing it on site, that's removed, I have no idea where we as consultants stand, because we specified a product that was exempt and now suddenly it's not. So the purpose for me raising this tonight is just to show that this is a grey area that sort of seems to be growing a bit. If you're selling products that aren't watermarked, I encourage you to look at getting them watermarked, because it seems like it's starting to become a lot more serious than it was previously. And for consultants, just be aware that that list exists. It changes. I don't know who they notify when it does change and how we're supposed to know that suddenly an air release valve that was exempt isn't anymore, other than someone sent me an email. But this here is the section on meters in the watermark scheme. So it says, only meters installed within the scope of the PCA require certification. And then I looked for water meters in the PCA, but I couldn't really find anything talking about it. So I don't know what that sentence even means. I'll try and get some clarification for people, but again, I don't have answers for you tonight. I'm just throwing questions up there for us all. I got sort of half answers, but nothing black and white. So this is another one raised. Warren Smith and Partners contacted me to say the Property Council, they've got a guide for I guess, like a specification for commercial buildings, for Class A buildings or A grade buildings. In that guide, the latest version, they require heat tracing for all grease lines. So this is something you could get caught out on if you're working for a client that wants you to design to the Property Council's specifications. Warren Smith and Partners have done some studies, and they believe that they're terribly inefficient and a waste of time, money, and resources. So we're going to work on a letter with Warren Smith and Partners to submit to the Property Council to try and get that removed. But in the interim, just be aware that that exists if you're doing those jobs. I haven't done one in years, but if you are, just be aware you need heat tracing at the moment for grease lines. Mr. Sablina, do you want to come up for the presentation? I don't have a fancy video this year. Yeah, we've just got a trophy. It's not the name's not engraved on there because we got it done before, and then there's a $200 voucher in that envelope.
Do I know who it is?
Yeah, here. You just have to click the arrow.
Oh shit! Oh. Thanks, Nick. I just want to take this opportunity now that Nick's here, and we haven't seen Nick for more than 16 months, and I've had 355 phone calls over that 16-month period about one thing or another, and it's a pleasure to see him here. He's looking fit, he's looking healthy, and he's not looking like a Sydney consultant. Port Macquarie. So I just want to say thanks, Nick, for the work that you've done over the last 12 months. It's very much behind the scenes type of work. It's not seen very often, and it's a pleasure to see you here. So I want to give a round of applause for you. Well done, mate. Thank you. So Nick's given me the joy of sharing to you who the Sydney Sales Representative of the Year for 2020. So it's a little bit old, unfortunately. And I remember when the emails went out to all the members to vote for who the sales rep was, there were certain criteria, whether they were handsome, good looking, or, bought lots of coffees. So everyone filled those forms in. We got the responses back, and the winner this year or last year is, get it right, Steve Anchigov. Yes, again, well done, Steve. So there were rating points, handsomeness and coffeeness. So handsomeness was low ranking. Sorry. Well done, mate. Thanks, mate. That's a man.
I was going to photo.
Oh, yeah.
You take a photo? You're better than me.
Come over here, Nick. It's very simple.
Oh, okay. You get to take a photo.
Well done, Steve. Thank you. So just a general commentary on sales reps. It's really been exciting to see a lot of faces again tonight that we haven't seen for a while. Slowly they're starting to filter through to the offices, the larger offices, which is great. And it'd be really good to see a lot more of you, because I feel that, we've been somewhat dysfunctional collectively and holistically as a group over the last couple of years, year and a half. So it'd be nice to get some normality back. Start knocking on doors, you blokes and ladies and men, and start visiting our offices. We'd love to see you. So well done. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the other reason that was the 2020 sales rep was because we didn't actually really get to do anything last year because of all the coronavirus rubbish. So hopefully that doesn't come back again in winter. More lockdowns and everything else. But yes, thank you for your efforts, Steve. And it's good that we sort of got this going, and we'll try and do another one maybe in about 6 months' time. We'll do the 2021 rep. And then we'll stage it to the 12-month period again. So this is a reminder from the last meeting that Reece have given us access to their Reece Max app. So any members that want access to that, send an email to Em or to Lewis Kerrigan from Reece. And I find it really helpful if you get a variation on a job, or someone just wants to know the recommended retail price of a product. You can just jump in there, look up the product, and get the price straight away. So you don't get to see the plumber's price. You just get to see recommended retail, but it's a handy thing to be able to just look up a product quickly and see how much it's worth. And then you just snapshot it and send it to the architect or whoever it is so they get an idea. So draft standards out for comment, which at the moment we've got ASNZS 5601.1. So that's the one I'll be running through shortly. And you've got until the 10th of June to provide any commentary. We did touch on this, but just to touch on it again. So gas bottles are changing, barbecue bottles. Doesn't affect us in the consulting world, but it is LPG, so I put it up here. The transition date for the new cylinder valves has happened. So I don't know, I can't remember what Rod said at the last meeting, but what I was told on the gas committee is the valves at the moment that are left-hand thread, the new bottles have a like a gas leak detection device on them, where the old bottles didn't. There was an explosion in Victoria a few years ago. A guy died in a van where the bottles leaked. And New Zealand and America have had these valves with the leak detection on them for 20 or 30 years. We just haven't, because the old valves were cheaper. So I believe these new valves are now right-hand thread instead of left. I could be wrong, but that's what the head of the gas committee told me. The right-hand thread's slightly larger. So if you have a left-hand threaded barbecue, which all of us would, you push it into the new bottle and it'll still screw in left-hand. But as of October this year, all new appliances must be right-hand thread, is what I was told. Which again, I couldn't find it written anywhere. It was just what I was advised. All I could get was these dates. And then so all the barbecue bottles from appliances from October onwards, the threads will all change to suit this new bottle. And then maybe after 10 years, they'll phase out the left-hand thread altogether. I'm not sure how it works, but just in case you go to Bunnings to get your swap and go or the servo and you wonder what's happened, that's apparently the story. Okay, I won't touch on this because we're going through that in about 20 minutes. Okay, so the water demand project. So this is the sort of the business case that I put together. It's not very long. It's about 3 or 4 pages, but this is just a snapshot from it. But what we want to be able to do on the apartments, we've monitored the cold now on 4 different apartment blocks. We've seen that the flow rates, the peak flow rates are typically around 30%, 35% of what the Australian standards have been telling us, which is very similar to the German DIN standard for apartments. So we've got the performance solution on the website that you can download if you want a size to the DIN standard, or you're considering doing that. But what we'd also like to do is monitor the hot water flow to compare it to the cold, because that's something no one's ever really done. We'd also like to look at reducing the meters we've currently got log at every 10 seconds. We'd like to bring that down to every second or even into the millisecond range. Not on every apartment, but just on one apartment, just to compare. This is from the university. They'd like to see, I think a lot of the data in the world is based on 10-minute readings currently. So we've pushed the bar a lot higher than data that's already out there. But if we can get it down to this millisecond or even 1 second range, we can then see how accurate our 10-second data is. Is it 99% accurate, 95%? I can't tell you, I'm not a PhD grad, but by purchasing the higher spec meters that we've got quotes on, we can hopefully achieve that. But then we can also look at what's the difference between the peak hot water flow in an apartment block and the cold, because a lot of the data at the moment is based on the cold, or pretty much all the data that I'm aware of. And then we'd also like to put one on the return line so we can see how much water is actually circulating through the building versus what we've been calculating. What are the velocities? the new meter will have temperature probes on it, pressure sensors. So there's a lot more data we can collect. So phase 2A is what I'm calling it. Up the top, we've got the Deakin Uni grad who we engaged. That was actually paid today, the 33,000. And then to purchase the higher spec water meter and install it at the block of units. Is it Kirribilli where that block is? Yeah, it's the Kirribilli one I've written up there, isn't it? I think it's the Kirribilli building. We want to first install the higher spec meter next to the one that's already there to compare the data between the 2 meters, and then relocate that meter. Here I've called it stage 2B, relocate it onto the hot water system. So then we can monitor the hot water flows versus the cold. So it's not a huge step, but it's still a step in, in our process. And then phase 2C, we can't afford. It's about $100,000, but that would be to monitor the hot water in all those buildings. Or we might decide not to do that. We might decide to purchase all of that, but install it instead in hospitals. I'm not sure yet, but first we have to do stage 2A. So for this, we either need crowdfunding or we need a whole bunch more affiliates to join up. But this is just to show you that we do have a bit of a dream of what we'd like to do. And I don't have the mental capacity to even try and crowdfund that at the moment, but that's where we'd like to be in another year or two's time. So we'll revisit that again another day. Yep. Yeah, probably 18 months, yeah. 12 to 18 months, depending on the site, I think. Yep. Yep. Correct. We can take those and relocate them. Yeah, because if you go to the website we did, waterdemand.com.au, we've got 6 stages that we want to do. So we do hospitals, aged care, schools. We're basically trying to follow the DIN standard, has a series of curves for different types of buildings. And we're just trying to duplicate what they've done, really. To do that whole process, yeah, is potentially $200,000. So at the moment, we're just doing one step at a time. And really, by doing stage 2A back here, if we purchase these higher spec meters, or just one of these high spec meters, we can see, are we happy to keep using the meters we've already got, or do we want to invest in this technology that gives us even better data? But we'll let the guys at the uni tell us, and then we'll also let the funds decide what we're going to do as well. Yep. Thanks, Dave. And then, so he's not looking for anyone else at the moment for any more houses to fit those meters? Was it? No. Yeah, okay. All right. Because I did share that, the uni do know about that, but based on what Dave said there too, if anyone has any ideas of information we can share with the university that instead of your business assessing it, they could do it and it could benefit the hydraulic community, then definitely email us and tell us your thoughts, because if we're paying them now, we want to feed them as much information as we can to get as much out of this for the industry as we can. So we need to get a bottle of wine. Can we get a bottle of wine, please, as a oh, he's running out. Oh yeah. Can I get a bottle of wine, please, as a lucky door prize? Or not a lucky door prize, but a oh, actually no, I can give a hat out. It's all right, I've got hats over here. All right. So we only got 2 photos this month. So I'll quit the music very quickly. But tonight's winner, Bob Welsh. Thank you for seeing through that photo. So, are you large or small?
Large.
Small.
Got a big head.
There you go, see that. Done. All right. Okay, so don't forget to keep sending the photos through. I think we had about 15 last meeting, but this meeting we had 2, so it's the way it rolls sometimes. We'll now stop for, what time is it, 10 past? We'll stop for 10 minutes and then we'll roll into the gas presentation. So if everyone wants to walk around and have a chat. Thank you. Oh, thank you. That's right. I'll keep that for the end. Thank you. Sweet. All right, everyone. 2 minutes, and we'll kick off the next talk.
You just get ready. I'll get the gas one first.
Okay. All right, everyone. I'm going to start off with the New South Wales Gas and Electricity Consumer Safety Regulation. So this was changed 26th of March 2021. We only found out about it last week. We did send an email out to everyone. I'm trying to send emails out and stick the post on LinkedIn. So if you're not on LinkedIn, it's worth jumping on the forum there just to keep on top of these things. So this change brings us in line basically with the other states in Australia. So as soon as the new gas standard's published, we will adopt it immediately. Or you've got 6 months. If you're a plumber working on site, you've got 6 months to decide between the old standard or the new standard. So what previously used to happen is the new gas standard would come out. It would sort of be discussed in fair trading, I guess. And then we were using 2004 or 5 for 10 years, while the rest of the states in Australia were using the 2010 version and the 2013 version. So we were disconnected with the other states. So I think this is a good thing. But yeah, just so everyone's aware, there's a link in the email that takes you to that legislation, or the regulation, I should say. So you can read it yourselves, but that's it up on the screen. So and then that then becomes applicable if this draft standard is published in October this year, January next year. As soon as it's published, we might have designed to the old standard, but the plumber will need to install to the new standard if he starts installing within 6 months of the new standard being provided. So what I've tried to do is a high-level summary. I actually spent 3 days. This is the only standard I sit on, the gas standard. There's probably 20 guys on the standard. I spent 3 days in Melbourne last year. I think it was about 3 weeks before all the lockdown stuff happened. Yeah, got a real good insight to the goings on of the standard. In some of the more boring periods, I just read through parts of the standard I read it from back to front basically over 3 days because I didn't have a lot to do in some of the discussions. But yeah, so these are the main changes coming out. I've highlighted in red, so I can send everyone a PDF if you want a copy, but I've highlighted in red the ones I think are more relevant to us. as consultants. So the first one here is multi-layer pipe in class 1 buildings. So pipe, so I put the definition of PEX pipe, which I think everyone knows what it is anyway. This came about over in the UK. They've been having instances of fire spreading where PEX pipe's installed, and what's happening, you can see here, down the bottom there, that is the burnt section of, like, they put it in this little firebox, set it on fire, and the aluminium rings pop off the fitting where they're just, they're crushed onto the O-rings, and the pipe itself doesn't melt, but the fittings pop off, and then the fire sort of wicks and spreads through the building. So as a result of that, it's been a discussion that's been happening for a few years. For class 1 dwellings, they're recommending an UPSO if you have less than 30 litres of gas in the service. So I'm like, all right, well, what is 30 litres? Because we don't really ever calculate the volume of gas in a service on a job we're designing. But yeah, 20 mil pipe, 184 metres, 32 mil pipe, 70 metres. So we're going to have to have a pretty big house to exceed the 30 litres. I didn't know what an UPSO was. I've heard of an OPSO, but not an UPSO. But an UPSO is an under pressure shutoff versus an over pressure shutoff. So I'll put a photo of one up. It looks exactly the same. Just the spring works in reverse basically, and it detects under pressure. So if the fitting pops off, it's going to slam shut off the gas to the house. So then for any other building or where the consumer piping volume is greater than 30 litres, so most other projects you probably will exceed the 30 litres, the installation shall be fitted with a system that will shut off the gas supply when the fire safety system operates. Needs to be a class 1 safety shut-off valve, operate only when the fire safety system operates, and be located prior to any multi-layered pipe or as close as practicable to the gas supply point to the building. So one of the questions I did raise in the meeting, being new to the discussion because it was the first meeting I've actually been to, if you're in there's 5 townhouses, you're in townhouse number 3 and the bloke in townhouse 5 keeps burning his toast every morning and your cooker keeps shutting off, you're having to pay a plumber to come out and reset the gas safety shutoff device every time he burns his toast. So yeah, depending on whether you have one per, most of you would know gas safety shutoff like that, device like that's probably going to add $1,500 to your project. What they did say is that there's a cheaper version that will sort of fit within these parameters. It's probably more around the $300 mark. The smoke detectors will need to be compliant with that safety shutoff device. So there will need to be a level of coordination if this does get into the standard, which I believe it will, to make sure your electrical engineer knows to specify a smoke detector that will talk to that gas safety shutoff. So when the smoke detector goes off, the gas safety shutoff goes off. So I don't think it's going to need the button, everything like that, but it will need to be wired to the smoke detector, and not every smoke detector will be able to do that. Then reversion fittings for proprietary multi-layer piping. This has actually been the standard for a long time, and I don't believe a lot of us in the room would know about it because I didn't until I read it in my free time in some of the discussions down there. What is a reversion fitting? Because there's so many different brands of PEX pipe on the market, the gas standard in a class 1 dwelling does require you provide reversion fittings in different sections, and that's to allow you to, so this is what it actually looks like, section of copper, and it allows a plumber that comes in 3 or 4 years later to connect to the section of copper because they may not be able to adapt to the PEX pipe, and then run that new PEX or whatever material they want to use, but because copper is so universal, you are required to install these in class 1 dwellings. So I don't know if anyone else, and did anyone here know that? Because I didn't. Yeah, all right, that's good. So now you know it exists, but we don't really inspect class 1 dwellings, but yeah, that's a reversion fitting. Okay, location of appliances in single residential premises. This is another one I think was, in my mind, a quite sensible change. The height of the base of the appliance from the ground or floor level shall not exceed 2.5 meters. So no longer can you put an instantaneous 4 meters up in the air where you need an extension ladder to get up to service it. The appliance shall be installed more than 1.5 meters from the edge of the roof or structure. So again, I've just tried to highlight and read the more relevant sections, but they're just trying to improve the safety and serviceability of gas appliances so that people aren't just sticking them wherever they want to. flue terminals under a covered area in a recess or on a balcony. So this is one of Glenn Streetfield's favourite topics, even though it's not a Renault anymore. So the change in here is for all balconies, regardless of the number of open sides. Because at the moment it's if there's 2 open sides, just needs to point in the direction of the opening. The flue terminal shall extend beyond any covered area and discharge towards an open side. So you will have to extend it past the wall, where under the current standard, I think it's in the direction of the opening, but they've sort of tightened up the rules around the flue terminals there. So the picture is here. So if you've got a which one is it up the top up here, you can see the roof stops in line with the heater there. There's like an open space, and they've also added in that you can't have any electrical power points or other services in that little zone there. So again, it's a little minor change, but still another change in there. So PE and PEX pipe above ground and external to a building and installed near an appliance. So it's no longer permitted above ground, external to a building, and shall terminate at least 1 metre from the nearest part of an appliance or some greater distance if required to prevent heat damage from the appliance. So you weren't previously allowed to install PEX where it's exposed to sunlight, but this is within 1 metre of an appliance. So they've just tightened up that. And again, not a huge change. This one here, emergency gas shut-off for educational institutions, I think really New South Wales, I'm pretty sure every state in Australia were doing this anyway. It just wasn't in it was more in the government's guidelines rather than the gas standard. So that one's, I think everyone's across it anyway, but that's now regulated in the standard. And then effective altitude on high-rise installations. So really the rule of thumb here, I've highlighted down the bottom, the natural gas pressure will increase by approximately half a kPa for every 100-metre rise. So you're going to have a pretty big building for this to affect your design in any major way. And then for LPG, it will decrease approximately 1 kPa for every 100-metre rise, but I don't know anyone that's done a high-rise building with LPG, like a big high-rise building. So in addition to that, to touch on the gas side of things, I don't know if you guys have been following world news on gas, but there's a big push against gas at the moment. The Sydney Morning Herald had on Saturday talking about a gas cooker being similar to having a small car running in your house. I think was what the person wrote in there, which I think is if the cooker's not running properly, that might be true, but certainly if it's running as designed, it's not going to. But they've phased out in Canberra, I think by 2025, they want to phase out natural gas. Maybe it's 2030, maybe 2025 so early, but they want to phase out natural gas completely in the ACT. All new housing estates in Canberra no longer have gas supplied, so they mandated that only electricity will be supplied. We're seeing the rise of hydrogen. If you watch in Germany, they've really started to push hydrogen plants, which is why we had a talk on hydrogen last year. But there's discussions around, they're already doing a blend. So we had Gemini come and talk last year. They're doing a blend of 10%, I think it's up to 14% hydrogen in natural gas mains in New South Wales already. And the manufacturers are currently adjusting their appliances to handle more and more hydrogen in the appliance. So it might be a 50% blend of natural gas and hydrogen, just like the car manufacturers have had to do with ethanol. So we're not really quite sure what's happening as an industry. There's word of hydrogen systems already being imported into Australia, ready to be installed in houses. So the regulators don't even know how to regulate. You know, we've got the gas market at the moment, but there's no hydrogen market that I'm aware of. So there's a lot of discussions in a lot of circles around Australia about education, training, and just where hydrogen is taking us. And you know, we're gonna have to write a whole new standard on hydrogen installations. But so I guess everyone, just to remind everyone, just watch that space. I think Europe's moving faster than we are, and if you watch what's happening in Europe, we'll probably get an idea of what's probably going to be here in the next 5 years or so, and whether they have to transition from, you know, we did the Towns gas to natural gas transition 20-30 years ago. Plumbers had to go around and change everything over. I don't know whether we're going to have to do that with natural gas to hydrogen or what's going to happen, but it's just something I've been watching. So we're going to have another 10-minute break, and then we'll get Sean up to run through some regulation. Dave? Yep. Do you want the microphone, or you can? No. Okay. Yep. Yep. Well, my experience and talking with Dave, I think on most things we complement each other. I've actually enjoyed the fact that we now have the opportunity to have two consultants in the room, because on the gas standard, there wasn't actually an AHSCA rep there when I was there, which I thought would have actually been good, because there'd be two consultants in that meeting. But the ones Dave's been in, 2419, AS3500, I think, yeah, having an AHSCA rep there from Queensland or Victoria has actually been a good thing. Yeah, I would actually like to have more dialogue with the AHSCA, but there's probably one man stopping us from doing that properly. But yeah, from my opinion, it's a good thing, because in that room of 20 that I was in, you had the Camper Van Caravans Association, you had the Plumbers Union, you had Master Plumbers Victoria, Fair Trading, the Victorian, the VBA. So a lot of regulators and authorities, but I was the only consultant in the room. So, we're using this standard every day, well, not every day, but for some of us every day of the week. Yeah, of 20 people, there's only one of us, or now two, representing. But yeah, it does take up a lot of time. Now that I'm running my own business, I left home at 5 a.m. this morning. This is my own choice to move to Port Macquarie, but 4-hour drive down here. But yeah, I run my own business now. I've been doing it for 9 months. But yeah, sitting on standards like David, I take my hat off to him for doing it. A few of the AHSCA guys I know have sat on a standard for 3 or 4 months and gone, nah, this is too hard, and thrown that in, because the amount of commitment. David's been doing it for 15 years and sitting on lots of standards. And it's easy to put your hand up to go on a standard, but to stick it out and do it for years on end is a completely different story, because yeah, particularly David's been running his own business for a long time, and he's been volunteering his time to do that. So, but if anyone's interested, we do need to have, that's one of the things on our list, is a contingency plan to make sure we have backup people to sit on a standard if someone's not available, and also make sure the next generation can sort of come through. So if you have a passion for a particular subject, contact us and let us know. We'll put you on a list. But just be aware that it's a much bigger commitment than just saying, yeah, I want to do it. You have to actually volunteer. Like, yeah, 3 days in Melbourne was, yeah, a long time, when a day and a half was talking about caravans. So, yeah. No, someone will do it, but yeah, just make sure I just want to make sure whoever volunteers, they do it knowing what they're putting their hand up for. So yeah, yeah, thanks for letting me ramble on, and we'll have a 10-minute break and come back. All right, everyone, kicking off into our last part of the night. So these next two talks are going to be together. We've got Sean Wallace, who I introduced briefly earlier, but to give you a bit of an intro, Sean's around about my age, late 30s, I think. Couple of kids. He runs his own business up in Newcastle. He's got around about 10 staff. 12, yeah, 12 staff. So Sean's probably the market leader in Newcastle for hydraulics. But you know, he's doing a really good job, and yeah, he spent a fair bit of time putting this together tonight to give everyone a bit of a snapshot of first of all the discussion around qualifications, experience, titles in our industry. It's a discussion we've had for 20 or 30 years. So Sean's run a bit of a small group there to talk about this subject in a bit more detail, and then the new Design and Building Practitioners Act that's just come out in New South Wales. So yeah, and Sean's going to say it himself, but we don't have all the answers. We've just tried to summarize the information as we see it. So don't be too hard on Sean with anything up here. But yeah, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Nick, for the introduction there, mate. Much appreciated. Firstly, before I get started, I suppose, on this first topic, just like to thank the guys who put their hand up, like me, at the last meeting. So thanks to Steve from Newcastle, Carl from Canberra, and Tasmania representative Kyle. So thanks very much for you guys. Yeah, I suppose we tried to catch up at least once or twice, and a few phone conversations. So yeah, this particular topic is more of just a refresh, I think, of what the HCAA has actually already submitted. So we just sort of had another look at it, and I suppose the first slide is a bit of a description on, you know, where it all come about. So basically, to start it off, you know, what title should we use and what should the minimum qualifications be for these titles? So mid last year, the Australian Building Codes Board released a discussion paper on the draft National Registration Framework for the building practitioners, so the NRF. The purpose of this was to achieve national consistency in the registration of the building practitioners across the jurisdictions, which was essentially meant to improve the efficiency of registration processes through options such as mutual recognition, godfathering, and enhanced public confidence in the building. So the NRF covered disciplines in the field of building, so design, checking, construction, inspection, building approval, and coordination. It listed, you know, several categories which were specific to disciplines within each category. Among these categories, you know, hydraulic and plumbing design were summarised below. Maybe a little bit hard to read there, but basically they created two categories. One was hydraulic design, level 1, and plumbing design, level 1 and 2. So as you can probably see there, the hydraulic design component related to people who had a civil or hydraulic services engineering background, which is just there. And the second category was plumbing design, which was split into two levels, I guess. One for you know, DTS only, and one for DTS with buildings up to, I think it was 6 floors. Yep. So as a result of that, and the discussions that myself and, you know, the other volunteers, we sort of, I suppose, presented this table again, which is pretty similar to the one that we already had. The only difference is that we've nominated that instead of a plumbing designer, we've decided that we think it should be still considered a hydraulic designer, and that qualification would be the certificate forward in plumbing, and it would require a minimum of 3 years, and it would be DTS only up to 6 floors. And the other component that we sort of put in there was the definition of recent. So in line with the next topic, we wanted to, I suppose, reiterate that our opinion was that the 5 years and the 3 years had to be recent, and which was equivalent or part-time experience within the last 10 years, including at least 2 years practical experience relating to the work carried out in Australia by that person. So basically, you know, we're saying that we want the experience to be recent, especially within the last 2 years, and it has to be work that's been carried out in Australia. So again, like I said, we sort of came up with a pretty similar approach to what's obviously previously been provided. So I think out of this first presentation, I guess, if anyone has any particular feedback on if they feel that something should be slightly different there, please provide it, because I think the plan is, Nick, to republish this again or put it on the website, or work out who we need to approach to try and get this recognition in place. Because at the moment, the current one talked about us as diploma qualified guys not only being able to do DTS, so effectively it was restricting us, which we all know is not a good outcome for the industry.
So with the diploma in hydraulic services, so there's a lot of people that have done the diploma but actually got the actual diploma.
Yep.
You haven't got the certificate, maybe you lost it. Yeah. Okay.
I think so. I've done that.
Yeah, well, he's been able to dig a few out. He's been able to dig a few out of the study archive for people who have finished and didn't actually have stuff. Yeah.
They can say on the word finished.
Yes, finished, that's right. Because some people think they're finished and haven't. But if you have finished and you don't have a certificate, Rod's stuck a few out. And the other thing that I just want to touch on, that there's the only, under the government recognition, there's only a particular version of the diploma recognised, and there's about 7 versions. And we did get recognition by the government for all the previous versions, but it's not listed. If you go to the government's website, it's listed as a separate skill with legislation that we've got to stuck in over there. But when you go in, the version that was delivered between 2000 and 2005 or 2010, that's the only version that's currently recognised by the government officially, where the older version is just still there. And then this bit that Sean's talking about is it's a guide that the ABCB have done that is only going to be relevant if each state adopts it. So what we're talking about here, we would like to list this on our website as something that our members can reference as where we think people should be, as far as skill and experience goes, and qualifications. But we sent it back to the ABCB, this response, not in whole, but Sean's added extra bits to it. But they didn't reply back to us, so I don't know if they've read it. But in reality, every state has their own rules, so who knows what each state's going to adopt as far as what's being pushed by the ABCB. So that was just that's what they call a framework. It's just for people that just the changeover. 13 to 15, that US side. Was on that changeover. That took me. Oh, changeover while you got the US side. I finished it, and they had updated the US side.
That's right. Yeah. So, as Nick said, this I don't know. I couldn't find anywhere where this actually talks about actually being adopted, but the document does reference that in regards to the qualifications and the certificates that you do have. Each state, I suppose, is the one that has the final say, or state or territory, which sort of, I suppose, moves into the next slide, which is about this this act that we're going to talk about that lists certain qualifications within that aren't in line with, basically anything from 2011 onwards is okay. Anything prior to that is not. And as Nick said before, they've already sent letters and had that turned around for the New South Wales Fair Trading accredited certified, so the old C14, C15, 16. So as a result of this next topic, I believe one of the items that will be getting sent through will be that the qualifications and what's considered, to be recognised based on the numbers. So, people who did the Cert 4 back when it was the only thing that could be done, that's considered to be equivalent to the diploma and things like that. So there's about a list of 8 of them, course codes that Nick's got. Yep.
Fairly long-term goal, and it's probably going to take a while for the states to agree. But if we're going
start putting this on our website. As a jump in the gun by suggesting that we should be calling ourselves one category or another. If the ABCB, through that NRF, once it gets detailed and published, get us something kind of different.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't know whether it's been decided yet whether it's going to get posted on the web. It's just, I think it was open for discussion with tonight's meeting, was that this is, I suppose, the stance that we're trying to take, and the guys that again volunteered, we sort of all agreed that this is what we thought was best for us. As to where we posted that and put that yet, that's still, I suppose, up for discussion. And again, as I said, the next topic that that we're going to talk about sort of goes into these qualifications a little bit more, which I suppose the categories, I guess, aren't really relative to this New South Wales. So again, we found that between us, Canberra, Tasmania, no one was actually aligned with anything. So they were all following their own scheme, which this particular document that came out, the framework, was trying to, I suppose, make all the states and territories aligned, so that it became, I suppose, an Australia-wide recognition for classifications. So yeah, I suppose to answer your question, as far as where we post this, Nick will probably have to decide that. But
I don't know, we could maybe do a show of hands or something, but NRF is National Registration Framework. Just for those who don't know what it means, that's something along those lines. So really what we want to do is, I don't know for anyone else here, but for me, when I worked with Dave at Wood and Grieve, they gave me the title hydraulic engineer. I haven't done a degree. A lot of people who have done a degree would often say, oh, you're not an engineer, you can't have the title engineer. I don't really care, I just do my job, I get paid the same as them, so it doesn't really matter to me what title I have. But legally, I know master plumbers have their plumbing engineering cadetship, I think they called it. There's no legal jurisdiction or possession that engineers have over the title engineer. So we can actually use the title engineer if we chose we wanted to. But the position I've come to after almost 20 years in the industry is, for me personally, I don't have any qualms being called a hydraulic designer over an engineer. Other people in here might, and that's why we wanted to bring this up tonight. If people don't feel comfortable listing this on the website or pushing this, send us an email. Speak up now, put your hand up now and tell us your thoughts. Dave. Because that's really what we want to do, is instead of working in an office and debating with other disciplines about what we should call ourselves, I think we, as an industry, tell them what we want to call ourselves, not let them tell us.
So if this discussion is about whether we call ourselves plumbing designer, hydraulic designer, the reality is that we work in an industry that we are competing against mechanical, electrical, fire engineers. Okay, we are the only professional design service who don't have a pathway through a degree qualification. To the real world, they don't care about that. They don't care that half of us come through the plumbing trade, whether we do or not. They don't care about that. Someone wants to engage a professional person, they want to engage an engineer. So we call ourselves hydraulic engineers in our company to be equal to the electrical, the mechanical, the fire protection, the fire engineering, the acoustic, the ESD engineer. We're all of the same quantity. No one's going to do some research to determine whether I did 4 years on the trade or not. So from my position, and if there's no legal ramification, and I don't believe there is in terms of insurance that way or another, because we've gone through that in the past, that we call ourselves hydraulic engineers, and we embrace that. That's the way it is, right? Because we don't want to be a hydraulic designer, because we're not competing on the same level as our mechanical electrical counterparts. And in the real world, we are competing on that same level. So we accept hydraulic engineering.
Thanks, Dave. That feedback's important because that's what it was the ABCB that put the title plumbing designer in there. So we've changed plumbing to hydraulic. But if there's people in the room that think we should be using the term engineer, then yeah. All right. Well.
And just to add there, Nick, I suppose the terminology hydraulic services designer, I suppose, came from what the diploma is called now moving forward. It's the diploma in hydraulic services design. There used to be the diploma that I got from Queensland was the diploma in plumbing engineering. It used to have engineering in the wording of it. So yeah, that was probably more based on, I suppose, why we left out the engineer part. But yeah, as Nick said, we're happy to hear the feedback and put the engineer category up there if that's what everyone is calling for.
It's Engineers Australia get their knickers in the knot about someone calling themselves an engineer if they can't become a member of their association. And I think that's where it all begins and that's where it all ends. So the discussion probably is something amongst ourselves and to be assured that we don't get ourselves into a situation where we have legal implications by using the word engineer that are detrimental to our work and the profession generally, but also be aware that Engineers Australia are the ones that are going to park up.
They can only arc up from their own sensible standards. Exactly right, from a legal perspective. In the UK, train drivers, so yeah, let's be mindful of the fact that not get bogged down by the vantage semantics. Right? We are hydraulic engineer. All of us within this room can practice the art of hydraulic design. So fuck off there.
I'm not disagreeing with you, I just think it's a level of awareness. Those people that haven't come across this EA in their attitude, just be aware of their attitude. And look, mechanical engineers fix motor cars and steam engines and all sorts of stuff. But all engineering is a practical field, and consulting engineers Engineers Australia, but engineers actually do the work, and that's been the case for generations. So I think we've got a good. It's worthwhile discussion.
I appreciate it.
I think if we're going to adopt that title, we should just adopt it as an honorary title, not an actual title.
So to touch on it again, I think the Master Plumbers did spend a few $1,000s on legal advice, and there was no legal ramifications to use the word engineer. But I also am aware Engineers Australia are pushing to try and mandate that you can only use that title under certain conditions. So again, they haven't done that. So we're just pushing back. This is what we sent back to the ABCB, I think it was 9 months ago. But we can update this again. But maybe what I'll do is I'll ask Rod again.
Well, look, I think it's fine for us to agree. We sit around a table with design team and exactly what they're doing within our sphere. If we all go, yeah, look, engineers, that's great. But if this framework comes out and we're totally cut off from that term, then it's
But the framework, what Gary says, what states was, so this framework is not really.
Well, I'm just wondering if we can push these guys more to get us included in that engineering thing. And they'll go, oh, but we've got a framework here that says you have to have a hydraulic engineering degree, which doesn't exist. Well, I found one. It was hydraulic engineering degree. I think it was at UNSW, but it's predominantly stormwater flow design. Nothing to do with building hydraulics. And I don't think that should be contemplated in terms of what we're being categorized as. So, yeah, look, commend you for the work that you guys have done, and I think we should be resubmitting the updated version back to them. Going, hey, This is from the Industry Association. This is what it's saying.
Yep. No, point taken.
Okay, we'll do a show of hands.
Okay. So we have a show of hands for engineer. That seems pretty unanimous. So we'll, I think we just change those terms to engineer. Are we still happy for the, I suppose, the Cert 4 qualified plumber to be an engineer category? Show of hands. Nope. So we're proposing to have the hydraulic designer as the Cert 4 in plumbing and services, and the other two to fall up into the hydraulic engineer category with the civil and mechanical. Agree? Okay. So like we said before, the main items we looked at were the names again, and I suppose we thought we should get across that, you know, the recent minimum experience and the definition which sort of falls in line with the next topic, just to ensure that, I suppose, you know, these categories revolved around recent experience. We thought that was a main point to put in there.
So you've got level 1, 2, and 3. Thanks, so Sean. I can see we've got level 1, 2, and 3 under engineers.
Yep.
The room just voted for us, or the gentlemen doing design to be called engineers. Would we be looking at removing level 1, 2, and 3, just having just one level? You're separating yourself there by civil and mechanical engineering degree as being level 1, which is higher than a hydraulic engineer, level 3 diploma. Do we really want to make that a difference, or just call a hydraulic engineer, no levels?
Yeah. The levels are on the left. You must be looking at the minimum years experience, are you? The 5 and the 3.
No, I'm reading levels 2. Is it level 2? It's got 3 years. Level 1 is 5 years. Oh,
Yeah, that's years
Oh,
experience.
sorry,
That's the categories over there. Level 1.
sorry, I thought hydraulic designer was level 3. I couldn't read that as a one.
So you're
Yeah,
right,
sorry.
you're right, though, we can.
Sorry, I thought it went 3, 2, 1. Sorry, I did have my glasses. Apologies.
But basically, from that table, the third and the fourth one. So
Yeah, sorry, I thought that's at level 3. My
Yeah.
apologies.
those two there will fall up into these two here.
The only comment I would make is where you have the diploma in hydraulic services, there are a lot of designers out there, myself included, who only have the associate diploma. Associate diploma, some even have the certificate from way back. I upgraded my certificate, but there are a number of designers that have the associate diploma, so maybe we should reword that to include them as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose what this table, I guess, doesn't detail is, okay, what's considered to be, you know, diploma or equivalent, and based on, you know, the previous papers that Nick has presented in relation to the fair trading certified accreditation, you know, there's a list of, you know, I think there's about 8 or 9 of them that would fall into the category that is equivalent to the diploma. And again, this document also says that they're trying to get a national scheme, but at the end of the day, it comes down to, you know, the states and the territories who are going to make the final decision. And if they don't decide to fall in line with this, then we're still going to face probably the same problem that we've got right now. And which leads us into the next topic. New South Wales and I suppose finally trying to get something in play, which again, as we go through it, we'll find that they've done the same thing with the they did with the accredited certifier C14, 15, 16. They haven't listed all the appropriate diploma numbers and recognised the ones that are the older versions. But I did note that within the Act, it had a section there where they're able to assess qualifications outside those that we're going to go through now. It just means, I guess, that if there's nothing like the accredited certified scheme that Nick presented, it'll just take a bit longer for those people to become, I suppose, a practitioner. But we'll move on to the next subject if everyone's happy to. It all ties in together anyway, so yeah, feel free to raise any questions. I'll maybe keep going. Okay. So, as Nick sort of said, this topic probably is more to do with stuff that Nick and myself have prepared, and again, it's informative information on our understanding of what this design and building practitioners scheme means for us. So hopefully, after going through these slides, you can take a little bit out of this that that you might not have knew before you got here, but hopefully you all know what's in place. But so basically, from July the 1st this year, design and building practitioners working on Class 2 buildings need to be registered under the new compliance declaration scheme. So what are the changes? Certain designs will need to be declared for compliance with the Building Code of Australia and other relevant standards before work can start, and the declared designs will need to be lodged on the New South Wales Planning Portal. Builders must then construct according to those designs. Developers will be required to rectify design issues before construction, again saving everyone time and money and avoiding disappointment for the stress of the customers. Who needs to be registered? So design and building practitioners work on Class 2 buildings or buildings with a Class 2 part need to register to declare certain designs or building work and lodge documents on the New South Wales Planning Portal. The registration classes are design practitioner, there's 18 in total, principal design practitioner, 2 classes, and building practitioners, 3 classes. Design practitioner HCAA relevant classes, so we've sort of grabbed those 18 classes and took the ones out that we felt were relevant to, I suppose, our association. So design practitioner drainage is the first one. So prepare regulated designs and make compliance declarations in relation to stormwater drainage and roof drainage systems for a building with a rise in any number of stories. Design practitioner drainage restricted, prepare regulated designs and make compliance declarations in relation to stormwater drainage, so similar to the unrestricted, but it can't go any more than 6 stories, which is in line with what we just talked about in topic number 2. Then we have design practitioner fire systems, and then in brackets fire sprinkler. They're to prepare regulated designs and make compliance declarations in relation to a fire sprinkler system for a building. Then we have design practitioner fire systems, so that's fire hydrants and fire hose reels. Prepare regulated designs and make compliance declarations in relation to fire hydrant and fire hose systems for a building, and interestingly, including portable fire extinguisher system. I can't understand how that got in there, but it's written in the Act. So then we fall into the relevant qualifications and experience. So design practitioner drainage must be registered as a professional engineer, again the term engineer, civil and or mechanical, or have completed one of the following qualifications: a diploma of hydraulic services design from the NVR registered training organisation that has the qualification listed in the scope, which is that issue we were talking about before that Nick has previously lobbied and got changed for the accredited certified New South Wales scheme. So we'd be looking to do the exact same thing for here, because that limits, I suppose, a lot of people in the industry, and it makes it hard for them to actually qualify this without going through, I suppose, a more rigorous process, which the idea of this Design Building Practitioners Act was not to do that, from what I understand. You must have full 4-year full-time equivalent, part-time undergraduate bachelor degree that has a degree accredited by a body that is signatory to the Washington and so on. So that's just if you're going down the degree path. The top one more aligns with most of us in the room. And then we have relevant qualifications continued. Must have 5 years practical experience, which is recent, being at least 5 years or equivalent part-time experience within the last 10 years, including at least 2 years in Australia. So that's the item that we decided to put into that second topic that we discussed. And the experience must be relevant, being experience relevant to that class of registration, of class 2, 3, 9A or 9C building. So I'm not sure where the 9A or the 9CB comes from, because they're specifically talking about class 2, but that's how it reads. And then we have the restricted drainage qualification and experience. So it nominates that the Certified Plumbing Services from the NVR Registered Training Organisation. And again, same, it's only recognising the Act from 2011, which again, the letter that we'll send in will try and fix that. It talks about must have 5 years practical experience, again, being recent or part-time within the last 10 years, including 2 years in Australia. And again, it references the same classes of buildings that you have to have relevant experience in. The design practitioner of fire systems. So the fire sprinkler, fire hydrants and fire hose rules are all the same. They just have a few different pathways, so there's 3. So pathway 1 is the Diploma of Fire Systems Design from an NVR Registered Training Organisation. So similar to the diploma, but specifically to the fire systems design. Pathway 2 is an engineering degree from an Australian university or qualification under a program accredited by Engineers Australia. And pathway 3 is a diploma of hydraulic services, again from the NVR registered under the Act of 2011. The experience being 5 years practical within the last 10 years and at least the two years of Australian experience. And again, it lists the same classifications as the drainage for the class of building. There's a note there that the design practitioner fire systems, fire sprinkler and fire hydrant both have transitional arrangements for the 3 qualification pathways. So just on those, essentially they're allowing the guys to become registered as long as they're enrolled in the Diploma of Fire Services. And I believe they have to present their certificates to say that they are enrolled, and then they have 3 years to complete. Otherwise, if they drop off that diploma, then they drop off the register. I believe Nick may be able to help me out here, but the reasoning behind all these pathways is probably due to the FBA being heavily involved with this type of stuff and lobbying, because I suppose a lot of their members, from what I understand, don't actually have official qualifications.
Yeah, I think they're pushed for that transition period
Yep.
to make sure yeah, because a lot of them don't. And yeah, did you say this? I think it's three years.
Yeah, it's 3 years. Yeah.
3 years to get the diploma, which I think you've heard the same. But there's a lot of guys quite worried about that because it's a fair bit of money. I think it's $50,000.
15.
Yeah, I think it lost. Was it is that what Richard George was saying about it lost time and everything as well? Yeah, lost time, the cost of the course and lost time and everything to any individual is about $50,000 in trying to take that diploma and get it all done. But yeah, 15,000 for the course. But yeah, so it's it's a big hit to someone who's been doing it for a long time. But
Yep,
yeah.
good question.
Didn't the FPA
Yeah.
pull out? They were going to do it, and they've.
Pretty sure the FPA pushed back with the Civic Institute.
Yeah, I think they were going to offer it, but they pulled out.
Yeah,
of offering it.
we had a bit of a phone conference with, is it Bill?
Yeah,
From the FPA.
Yeah, Bill Lee was at the last meeting.
Yeah, so on Friday, we were talking about a different topic, but I asked him about this specific subject, and he did mention that they were working on getting something up and running, and that depending on the level of qualification with their scheme, that people didn't have to have been enrolled in a diploma for the first 12 months. They got like a grace period, I guess. But yeah, he mentioned that he didn't mention Pacific Institute or anything, but he mentioned that they were working on getting the diploma up and running or doing something in relation to that. So we have regulated designs and variations. So these are the designs prepared for a building element or a performance solution for building work. Building work refers to the construction, alteration or addition or repair, renovation or protective treatment of a Class 2 building. The performance solution is a tailored solution to meet the performance requirements in the Building Code of Australia. For this scheme, building element means any of the following: fire safety systems, waterproofing, building structure, building enclosure, and building services. So each regulated design must be prepared by a registered design practitioner and lodged onto the New South Wales Planning Portal by the building practitioner. So the key point I took out of that was that they're getting uploaded to the portal by the building practitioner, not us. They have to be on standard title block, which will be required and used by the New South Wales Planning Portal to extract data relating to the design. And apparently the title block will be available to practitioners soon and provided in a DWG format, so it can be included in your AutoCAD systems. To ensure compliance and quality of the documents lodged, auditing is planned to start from September 2021. All variations relating to a building element or performance solution will require an authorised design practitioner, not limited to the original designer. So someone else who is considered a design practitioner may come in and certify a particular component for a variation, in which they have to prepare, in brackets, coordinate or supervise the preparation of and declare a new design. Variations to an aspect of the regulated design unrelated to a building element or performance solution do not need to be signed off by the design practitioner, but must be recorded by the building practitioner in a variation statement. Variations on regulated designs must be lodged on the New South Wales Planning Portal with 1 day of the variation alongside the design compliance declaration form. Work may need to stop so that a varied design can be prepared and declared within this time frame. So effectively, if there's variation required to the design, what they're saying is that it has to be resolved, updated, recertified, and then submitted within 1 day. Otherwise, there is potentially fines. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that is regulated. But again, I don't think I've noted it here, but I think they plan to also conduct site inspections as well at some point to ensure that people are working off the design that are certified when they come to site.
So can I touch on that quickly, Sean, from I've been sitting in a working group every 2 weeks for a couple of hours with the government. So I only see a snapshot of what's happening in here. With the title block, they've sent me a couple of examples, but it seems like the main thing in there is they want the DA number referenced on there.
I've got that a bit further.
Oh, you got it further on?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually a copy of it.
And then what Sean was touching on there, because it says it's a DNC project, you've got 10 columns, the builder wants to change to 8. work has to completely stop in that area until the structural engineer has completely redesigned that, submitted it, had it approved. And yeah, the red tape I think is going to be it's going to be enormous as far as trying to get that. Like, you can't get, so the government's employed, I don't know if you touch on it, Isham, but I think it's about 30 certifiers, and now every CC, before it gets issued, one of those government certifiers has to issue the CC. So they have to get signed off by everybody in those categories that Sean's put up before, so all 30 people or 20 people, however many categories there are. And every one of those people, they have to have a certificate from those people for the approved design before construction starts. And if any changes occur in the building, then work is meant to stop in that section of the building until new drawings are prepared, submitted, they're in the portal. And then I believe the portal is meant to be able to be accessed by anybody that's accredited. You can log in, download drawings from that site. And then if it's the site's being built, you should be able to log in, and we can never find drawings on a job that's more than 5 years old. You should be able to log into the government portal and download the as-built drawings, and they should actually reflect what's on site. Except for us, which Sean's touching on, it's pretty much just downpipes, isn't it?
Yes, which I'm sure will be a question at the end of the job, at the end of this session. But yeah, I suppose the description of what drainage includes is a little bit left over to interpretation. So that's one of the items that we'll be trying to clarify, because it doesn't specifically talk about gutters and the like. So yeah, we'll be putting that into our response to go back to this Design Building Practitioners Act. But as Nick sort of touched on, as it's indicated on the screen, what they're asking for is a separate title block, which I guess we all have different versions of what we like to use as title blocks. This is turning into something similar, like a Department of Fair Trading type sewer diagram, that we're going to be either expected to or use that, or effectively to use two title blocks if you don't want to merge to that sort of format. But it's a fairly chunky table. There's a lot of information in there that I believe that they've got programs that they're going to use to scan all these drawings, and they're going to pick up those particular reference points. That's why they need them to be all the same. There's more details of this to come out. I think the one that I got this snapshot off is just the draft. Believe me, is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's something that's coming out and being activated as of July. Issuing a draft in May is not giving us much time. Yes. Yep. Yes, they are asking for a registration number, which is kind of that line there, which points up to somebody. Yeah, so this table is an explanation of basically what all these categories mean. I imagine that this table would have to get, depending on if, like I said, the design practitioner who did the original design, if there's someone who does certification of the variation, I don't know how they're planning to, I suppose, update this table, because then there'd have to be, I guess, two numbers in a sense. So yeah, there's a lot of questions around this particular table that probably need to be asked, and I guess given the date coming up, it'll probably be ironed out throughout the process. And I think as we get further through the slide, I believe it's pretty much like a 12-month transition period that they're talking about, where there's going to be a lot of these issues that I suppose that are still there that get ironed out. What happens with the 1st of July? Once we get through the next couple of slides, essentially, yeah, basically, Yeah, you're going to, as of the 1st of July, everyone needs to apply. Everyone's considered approved until, you know, I suppose once they go through the process, I think there's a certain date that they reference that if you apply for the application after that date, you can't lodge any designs. Whereas as of July, you need to lodge, get a number, and then you still have to lodge designs. It's just that in 3 months' time, if they assess it and say, no, you're not approved, then someone needs to, who is approved, to then certify your design and then re-upload it.
And it was class 2 only, just
Yes.
so everyone, because that was the first slide, it was only class 2 dwellings.
Yeah, class 2 or class 2 part of. So if there's any class 2 part within the development, it relates to the whole development. Yep.
To be aware that now you're talking about all the services. Yes.
I'd only assume so. And again, I think one of the documents I was reading talked about I suppose the drainage part of it only being implemented because it more relates to, you know, volume 1, whereas volume 3 is specific to all the other plumbing elements, which I think is in a two-part basket for them at the moment, and it's going to be somewhere down the track, as in how it gets regulated. I don't believe so. I think what they're expecting is a coordinated, effectively workshop level design. That's not going to change. Otherwise, people will be getting called aside. And again, the changes and the variations to the original design, I guess that is still, you know, not really clear as to if it's moving a pipe from here to another metre over, or what actually constitutes that change and the person coming in and recertifying it. I think that will be something that will sort itself out over that first 12 months. But some of the builders and developers that we've been talking to, some are on top of it, some have got no idea. So it's going to be a big issue. Yeah, so guys, the discussions about D&C designs. So basically, from what I've been told by a few different developers and builders and things like that, D&C designs will still exist. It's just that, I guess, the initial design, you know, the conceptual design would be done to, I guess, help, you know, the D&C plumber and the D&C builder to, I suppose, lock in a contract. And then once that contract's locked in, then it's the plumber's responsibility to engage an accredited design practitioner to finish the CC drawings with their input. And the same likewise with the builder. The builder would have input to the way the design gets put together, because they can't change it without great difficulty after it's been lodged for CC. Yes. Yep. Stormwater drainage, yes. And the other factor to throw into the mix as well is, on top of this design practitioner scheme, you still need to have, for the fire-related items, your FPA number or your accredited certifier number, because that's going to be the certification on top of this.
Oh yeah, for $400 a year for this, and then $1,000 a year for your C14. Yeah. So about $1,400 a year. Yeah. Or is it seven? No, I don't know.
Yeah, so there's the proposed schedule of fees there. So we've got application for 1 year is $440, renewal for 1 year is $330, and then we've got the professional engineer table up there as well for anyone who's interested. But for some reason they seem to be a little more expensive. But yeah, I think good question. Yeah, so that's something that we can put in this return paper, I guess. And I think these fees, Nick only sent them fresh to me yesterday, I think, so that you've only just received these somehow.
That's the working group one. They sent that through.
Okay.
Yeah, a few days ago. Please check. I
I'll-
think there is only one.
I'll get into that's a little bit further in the slide. Sorry, it's taken a while, but it's a pretty big discussion.
What was that? Sorry, No, C14 will still be applicable for fire in other building categories other than class 2. No, that's right. Yeah, C14 is gone. You're right. Yeah, it is now hydraulic practitioner. Yeah, so Sean's.
It's an accredited certified.
Yeah, accredited certified. We just discussed this earlier. Sean's now an accredited certified. I'm still C14 because it changed July last year and my renewal was March this year. But they still haven't approved mine. I think it's 3 months now since I applied. And if you go to the department's website, it says still reviewing or something, even though I just paid them $5,000 for a renewal. So, yeah. So, and then Sean also mentioned that his insurance went up because the definition changed.
Yeah. So basically, I sort of got my accreditation with the fair trading on I think it might have been like the 20th of July last year. So it was under the new scheme after 18 months of the application sitting with them. They were kind enough to approve me under the old application, but under the new scheme. So, and they only started contacting me pretty much just before July. So, it's, but the excuse that was getting used was that they were concentrating on the FBA. That was what was being told to me, that he was told, Jonathan Lynch was told to focus on the FBA approvals. But basically those new categories which they have listed in the certifiers regulation, you know, what's equivalent, but it's now called accredited certified hydraulic and then building, and then accredited certified hydraulic stormwater, and then accredited certified hydraulic, and these are all in brackets, I think trade waste or something like that. So the definition of accredited certifier scared the hell out of my insurance company. And yeah, it took a lot longer to sort that policy out, but it did increase probably by 30 to 40%. And again, it's the word certify which scares them off. But one of the, I suppose, the interesting things about this particular act is that, you know, it actually takes responsibility off the private certifier and puts it on us. So I guess which is something that, from what I've been told by the private certifiers that I've spoken to, is that they've been lobbying for a long time for it to occur, because obviously, you know, they don't know everything, and we're supposed to be the professionals. And effectively, this is saying we are professionals, and you know, this is how we need to become professional, and listing the minimum requirements for it. Yeah, the one I've spoken to has basically said he's put all new proposals on hold, and he's getting legal advice, and then he can send out letters to his clients. Because again, as we get a bit further into the scheme in this report, is that if you've issued a CC already, and then you're going to have another CC after July the 1st, that CC after July the 1st is under the scheme. The first one's not, but the second one is. So there's going to be a big push in the next, you know, whatever there is left between now and July, and we're already seeing it in our office, is people are pushing to get all the CCs issued. And again, the designs still need to be uploaded to the portal after the date, but they don't need to be certified. You can make changes, all that sort of stuff. So there's a big, I suppose, benefit for people to get those CCs done. And we're noticing that, yeah, a lot of builders are pushing certifiers to get this stuff done. So we've got, where are we at? So back to those variation statements. So that's, I guess, if the variation is not considered enough, and again, that's still got to be defined as to needing a design update. If they don't do that, they do a variation statement. They're just saying that those needs to be lodged prior to the application for occupation certificate. And then we've gone through those particular plan sheets. This here is, I'll broadly sort of run over this, but this is just, again, from that same document that was issued, listing basically minimum particular requirements on the plans as to what they're expecting to see. Again, it's not really descriptive in the sense of how coordinated it is. It lists the services in particular. I guess, does it actually list downpipes and gutters? Doesn't appear to list. Actually, it does if you note that bottom clause there. It says tonnages and flies for collection of condensate from air conditioning systems. That's a stormwater system. It doesn't mean it's in the stormwater section.
Yeah, some councils think mechanical.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different people, debate about that, but it's interesting that they nominate this in the stormwater requirements. They're saying that it's okay to go to stormwater. Yeah, I think the DFT are actually picking people up on another. That's the, I suppose, the information on what's meant to be on the fire plans. Again, once these particular drafts get, I don't know whether you may be happy to send them out or not, but we only just saw these the other day, so I haven't had a good chance to really review these in particular. It's more of just a snapshot of, again, there seems to be drip feed information that's coming a little bit too late. So the eligibility requirements, so you must prove that you have, so you must meet the qualification, knowledge, skills and experience, which we sort of spoke about earlier. You must successfully complete pre-registration learning requirements. So on the New South Wales website, there's a portal for some requirements that you have to actually undertake some study. So pay some money and do some tests. And again, there's still adding stuff to that. Not all of them are available yet. I believe one is nearly available. I think they're the two that have to be done. It says that you have to be at least 18 years of age, a suitable person to carry out the work, meet insurance requirements, pass a national police check. So we'll talk about the police check a bit further in. How you get registered. So from July, you can apply and register on the Service New South Wales website. It's just basically saying there that as long as you really register before you need to declare a document, you don't need to register on July the 21st. So basically, if you're not lodging a document till the end of July, you just need to have applied for it prior to that date. And again, only the person who's declaring or lodging the documents needs to register. So, I suppose potentially only one person in the office has to be the design practitioner, and similar to how it is with the accredited certifier and FBA numbers. Deemed registration is what I was talking about before. So from July the 1st to the 31st of December, there will be a transitional period where you'll be deemed registered so you can keep working. The deemed registration means you'll receive a registration ID and can keep working while they assess your application basically. As to how long that's going to take, I'm assuming that they're giving themselves there a 6-month window to get back in. So after the assessment, you'll be notified as to whether you can keep your registration for 1, 3 or 5 years. Start date is date of application, or whether your deemed registration has been cancelled because you're not eligible. So I suppose they're emphasising the fact that you go through the requirements, make sure you meet those requirements when you apply, so there's no issues. If your application is successful, your ID registration will stay the same. If you apply after the 31st, you will need to stop declaring or lodging documents while you wait for your application to be assessed. So effectively, you need to apply in between that first 6 months, and you're able to still lodge designs until they assess you as competent or not. This relates to what we sort of touched on before about start of building works and like. So if the building work is started under a particular compliant development or construction certificate before July, then the new rules apply regardless of whether your construction certificate was issued prior or after the July. So basically what they're saying is if you have a compliant development and you haven't actually got the shovel out, dug a hole, poured a footing, your CC, just because you issued it before the 1st of July, doesn't matter. It's when you start the work on site, which a lot of people are getting caught up on not knowing that particular rule and the builders that we've spoken to. So if the building work has started before the 1st of July, the new rules do not apply to that work that has started under construction or compliant development. However, the designs you relied upon will still need to be lodged. So they still want to see the designs, but they don't have to be, stamped by the design practitioner. Then it talks about any subsequent building work, which I said started on another CC, will need to comply to the new rules. So that is a bit of a, I suppose, potential issue, like I said, with some of these buildings where we're working on a couple that they've already done CC1, they're doing the works, and CC2's imminent. Now it's pretty much next week. So it's it's a bit of a problem. So just be aware that there will be a big rush in the next couple of weeks. That one there. Skip. So from July, 1st of July 2022, the transitional period ends. So the items we talked about are gone. For all projects where the first building work was carried out after the 1st of July 2022, everything will be under the regulated scheme. It's essentially they're given the transitional period of a year, and after that, basically what they're saying is they're going to enable a holistic view of the design, which should improve industry practices at the start of the building process. How to prepare. So here's some things you might need to do before the July. So proof of identity. So the Surface New South Wales application form steps you through what types of identity you need. So you need 2 types. So it'd be license and medkit card or something along the lines of that. To complete and pass, they're the 2 courses. So the Design and Building Practitioners Act 2020 learning module, which is not available yet from what I understand, and the Value of Australian Standards learning module, which is available. They have to be completed and passed. I think you get about 3 attempts, I think. A police check. You may do this through the Service New South Wales, National Police Certificate, name and date of birth, or choose your own provider. So I did this on Saturday. It literally took 10 minutes and I had the certificate. So it's not the one for the fingerprint. It's the one where you just have to basically provide 2 points of identification, and it checks and then effectively emails your certificate. I think it's $50 it cost. If you hold an existing licence in your field, so this is talking about making sure that they're up to date and match the proof of identity of your documents, a copy of a degree, postgraduate degree, diploma or NVR course certificate. Again, so this is the one that, we probably really need to focus on, because it's hindering the people who have the qualification certificate prior to that act in 2011. And then I've just got a note there that there will be additional requirements potentially that may come up. So you need to keep checking the New South Wales Fair Trading website, which has a lot of good informative information, which is where a lot of this stuff has been grabbed from. Not necessarily reading the reg isn't the easiest way to interpret this type of stuff. There will be a code of practice that we're meant to meet throughout our holding this design practitioner. The code includes the duty to act in a professional manner, act within their level of competence and expertise, maintain satisfactory level of competence, avoid conflicts of interest, maintain confidentiality, and then I've just noted there that there's more information about that particular code of practice in Schedule 4 of the actual regulation. To maintain registration, it's saying at the moment you must complete at least 3 hours of approved and relevant education and training each year to maintain registration. So it's talking about education and training, not CPD. So I'm assuming that's going to be stuff that they're going to put on their digital learning portal as a minimum. There'll be CPD, which they're talking about either under that new digital learning platform, or they've referenced the Australian Building Codes Board, National Construction CPD codes. I'm assuming the ones that we carry out, Nick, would be adequate enough, maybe if they're related to drainage.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure the document I read the other day said 50 points.
Did it?
Yeah, which is a lot of points. So, which in one of the groups I was in, I know there were objections to 50 points, but I'm sure the thing I was reading was saying 50 points. So whether that ends up being the case or not, 50 points would be really hard to check.
I'm pretty sure the accredited certifier that I'm registered on is only 25.
Yeah, that's right. Currently it's 25. Yeah. I think it was increased from 15 to 25, but this scheme I think was asking for 50. Yeah, so whether or not they do that or not, but our scheme is accredited under fair trading under the other act, but I'm not sure if we'll have to.
It may be something worth.
Yeah, we might have to get a clarify under this one. Yeah.
And it says that they're going to ask for written records, certificates of completion, attendance, and evidence. Record keeping. It talks about practitioners needing to keep records in the form that can be readily inspected for at least 10 years, even if they cease to be registered as a practitioner, which again is more in line with what they make the private certifiers fall under. More information about that record keeping can be found in Part 7 of the regulation. Insurance. There is going to be a transitional period for insurance requirements. Although insurance is recommended, they're saying that for the first year, there should be no additional requirements. They're going to explain it to the insurance company, but mandatory insurance requirements for the design practitioners will apply under the new scheme. So I guess like the fair trading one, you have to be insured and provide evidence. So assuming it's a similar type thing, but it seems as though, I don't know how critical they're policing the insurance. Yeah, maybe there's more requirements to come out of that as to what they want, or a minimum. And we talked about the fees, and that concludes the presentation so far. I'm sure there's plenty to talk about. Is there any questions that I don't profess to know everything about it, but hopefully, through this you've got a better idea than what you did when you first walked in here already. Thank you.
So there's no questions? Oh, okay, Rob.
Yeah, I said no questions. Okay, Sean, I'm just going to go right back to the start. Fire extinguishers you touched on, that's included with the hydrants and hose rigs?
Yes, apparently so. So I think that'll be one of the items that I guess will be, I don't know, questioning why it's actually in there, or it's got nothing to do
My
with.
My concern is that if you need that to be able to get that registration, and our department doesn't include extinguishers,
Yep.
you're not going to get it.
Yeah, well, based on, I guess, you know, they did talk about the engineering category, so I suppose potentially the dry fire engineer or the electrical engineer, whoever's deciding to do the, or maybe it sits under the FBA scheme, maybe it come as a bit out of the Fire Protection Association push, potentially to push it in there.
Look, I've got just to head boring everybody, I've got a bunch and I'll put them in an email to you.
Yep.
guys, and I'd like to think that everyone, if you've got questions, send them to Nick or Sean. We'll do a consolidated list back to the government. But a couple of the ones that I had sort of stuck with me is when you said you'll get a certifier when you put in your CC. I was curious whether you get the same certifier for the rest of the job. I know Sydney Water has done a similar thing every time they get an inspector out to the project and it's not the same person. That I think is problematic. I think they need to be attached to the project all the way through. Who can access drawings once they're on that portal? Surely it's not just free public access for everybody.
I think Nick mentioned, yeah, once you're a design practitioner, you'll have access to the portal.
Every project? Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I'm
not every project.
That ends,
yes.
But I think it's one of the things we should ask them and say, well, surely, you know, if 10 years down the track, you get a project that's been on there for a while, you have to apply for access.
Well, one thing I did read, which I didn't include in there, was that you don't get notified when the building practitioner lodges the design. So you give them the stamped plans, and then they may take 3 weeks to lodge it. You don't actually get a notification. So that's one item I've got to add to the list of queries, that we should be getting notified that our design has been put up on the portal.
Okay. Look, another one, I was hoping Tom Wise would be here. He had a bit of a chat about this at our committee meeting last week and has talked to a few certifiers about all of the things that you covered. One of his concerns was what we need to show on drawings. And his example was, say, support and clipping of pipework. If you don't show it on your set of drawings, the plumber can just sort of say, well, oh, he didn't tell me to put it in, so I didn't put it in. Which, I think most people probably have always sort of had a clause in there saying, you know, support pipework in accordance with as well, sizing normally is going to follow the structural engineer anyway, but totally agree. Are we expected to have all those things on our documents? That's a bit of a grey area.
Yeah, well,
question.
It's one thing that after speaking to a couple of builders that we deal with regularly, they're saying that they're going to want us to come out and do inspections, and the level of inspections that we're going to have to carry out are going to have to pick up things like that if we don't document it, because that the certifier who comes out to site will be looking at all this stuff. So I suppose we don't know what sort of hit list they have, but it's open slather at the moment, I guess, and we need to basically be more critical in our inspections, because they're going to have to listen to us.
And the frequencies might become a lot more frequent.
Yes, and if we miss stuff, then the certifier picks it up, then who's going to get the blame? So it's a whole new world, but yeah.
So the as-built certified.
Well, basically, the intention is that the as-built should be already there, because the design is coordinated, and if there's any changes, the variations get submitted along the way. So the as-builts are getting created as they go, and effectively what they're saying is that there shouldn't really be a need for as-builts, because unless you change, the unit layout, the design that's on the portal is effectively an as-built.
Actually, I was going to say one more, but it was just the insurance thing. When the discussion has been some insurance companies aren't going to cover people under this act.
Yep.
I find that a pretty big problem. Some companies may not have a problem with not certifying Class 2 buildings. I mean, for us, it's probably still 50% of our work, so we certainly need to find that out. I'm a little surprised insurance companies aren't on board given government's gone so far down the street. But again, it's not up to you guys to answer, but we're really keen to find out how that respond.
Thanks, Rob. On the as-built, the discussions early on when I was on the working group were to have the engineers sign off on the as-builts, which is a big pushback on. And I understand that the contractors will have to sign off on the as-builts at the end of the job to say that what's installed matches what was designed, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, whether that's included in here, but that was where the discussions were heading. So.
And I think the building practitioner, which is effectively the builder, he is a lot more liable at the moment under this new scheme. So he's accountable for what's actually going in. He's meant to manage the process to ensure that things are getting installed. If they're not getting installed to the design, they've got to be flagged.
But are you saying there's like a coordination change? Is a design change? Yeah, I think there's a differentiation there. If you've got to go around this column, that's not a design change.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how they define what the. Yeah, I don't know how they define what that is.
That shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Is this how you put class 2 buildings?
At the moment, only class 2, but they will roll it out into other categories every 12 to 18 months.
And do you need to be a practitioner for any class building at the moment? So we're doing class 2. Only class 2.
Yeah,
They're targeting class 2,
Yeah.
but within another year or 2, we'll roll on to the next.
Yeah, and then the hydraulic practitioner or the accredited certified hydraulic, that's only applicable as far as the fire category goes because it's an alternative to the FPAA pathway.
Yeah, so Rod, just to answer your question, or maybe shed a bit of light around it. It says here that the design's prepared for a building element or performance solution for building work, and then it goes in to say that for this scheme, building element means any of the following: fire safety systems, waterproofing, building structure, building enclosure, building services. So it's very open. It could mean anything, as in if you move a building service within the building, then it instigates a regulated design.
So instead of storm
Yeah.
how is building services like gas, hot water, drainage?
Yeah, again, it's one of those things that I don't know, I found odd, and I can only sort of relate it to. I think it might have been the draft Practitioners Act that came out for and the reasoning behind why they didn't include the other hydraulic services, and it was specifically because they're under the PCA Volume 3, which is a different thing to what this is trying to target. It's trying to target Volume 1.
All right.
And it was probably put in the too hard basket, to be honest, I assume. Yeah.
So we might take any other questions, getting probably a bit late in the night, but if you've got any other questions, just email them through. And then we might continue like a little separate working group to come up with a submission back to the government on this.
Yeah, but yeah, just ask you to get them in as soon as you can, because
So send them to admin, to M, and then we can filter them through to Sean. Yeah. Oh yeah, so yeah, Sean's he's got that available as a PDF. I can send you all the gas update if anyone wants it. I can send it to you. So just again, email him if you want a copy, and we'll get through the whole presentation to you. And then Rod Jackson said to mention there's the Construct New South Wales portal that the New South Wales government have been working pretty hard on producing a number of CPD and different modules in there. So the introduction to this entire act is available on there, Rod was just mentioning. So if you register, log in, you can do the first CPD module to introduce you to this act, separate to what we presented tonight. And then they will introduce the missing one that Sean just touched on before. The ones that aren't there yet will be there soon. And that's how the government, so I know in one of the little sessions I was in, you've seen some of the building practitioners, what is it called? The building, guy around defecting all the buildings at the moment. Building commissioner, yeah, that's one. One of the consequences if your building is defected is the builder has to complete the modules that are listed on that government portal. So they'll be forced to go and do a series of CPD courses as punishment, which It doesn't sound like a whole lot of punishment, but yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah, I'll add some relevant links to websites at the bottom to some of these information areas that you can go to, as well as that digital learning portal that Nick was talking about. Just so if you scroll to the back, you'll be able to click on it and get there straight away.
All right, thanks, Sean. So if anyone wants to get involved in the working group for any of those subjects, then just let us know, because it is hard to get people to put their hand up. But if you can get involved, we'd appreciate it. Because we do need to get a submission back to the government, because even when we've submitted so many things over the years in my time that I'm sure only some lackey reads and chucks in a pile. So it's sometimes you have to keep sending stuff over and over again to get them to hear. But sometimes they do hear. So they did recognise the old versions of the diploma, which was good. And hopefully we can do that again with this act as well. Okay, so next week is meeting in Adelaide. So again, if you're a member and you're in Adelaide next week, welcome to attend the meeting as long as you booked a ticket. Then the next meeting here is in 2 months' time. We haven't actually booked. Normally we would book it, but because it's the middle of winter and we have no idea what will happen with all this lockdown rubbish, then we will be booking in the next couple of weeks, but we'd actually held off this time around, but hopefully we're all good. And then we are planning on having another plumbers meeting like we had a couple of years ago, a big night. We're proposing that in September, so 4 months away. And hopefully we get a big turnout of, I think we had about 160 last time. If anyone has any ideas of particular contractors you think would be good to get along, let us know. I think we had 10 companies we invited last time, and about 2 or 3 plumbers per company. But if you have a particular contractor you'd like to invite, just give us some suggestions, and we're going to start to plan that, and hopefully it'll be a good night. And then, yeah, Canberra, we're proposing another meeting around about October, November. So we haven't actually locked that in yet, but yeah, if you're down in Canberra later in the year, it'd be good to get you along to that as well. I'll hopefully go down to that one and be there. So we might just spin the barrel now. We've got a few hats to give away. So Glenn Streetfield, I'd like to get you up on the stage tonight to spin the barrel, please. Just have to spin away, pull the number out, and then Emma will tell us who it is.
122.
22. Oh, we'll just make that. We'll make that number 22. Michael Frost. Are you a small or a large? There's 2 size hats. One in the front. Okay, thank you, Michael. Good to see you here.
Go again?
Yep.
88.
88. 88. Charbel. Extra large. Just check that.
Oh.
You're taking my class. Yeah. She's signed me up. Said I need to get out of the house. Hey, we're in your book. Yeah, I
No, the people online don't get hats.
Oh,
They're trying to ask for a hat.
not too bad. 160. We too high again?
Oh, that can be 60.
60?
That'll be true. 60. Geordie Skelton and where?
Oh, yeah.
Check that one. I don't know if that's small's at the back. Is that small? That one, right? Small, medium? Okay. We've got 4 more to go.
Yeah.
I'm clearing them out of my garage, Dave. See.
80.
80. Okay. Brian Dolly. Where is he? Oh, no, he's gone.
Does he sneak out?
I got okay, I'll halve that. Give me number 40. Number 40, Paul McDonald. Okay, another number.
There's 11. 159, so 59.
59, Andrew Shannon.
Is he here? Yeah.
Small at the back margin. Okay. It's alright? Oh, that's beautiful. 3 more. You want more of a drum roll?
Oh, all right. How about three at once? All right. 48, 63, and 29.
Okay, 48. Brett Peterson. Gary Sparks. What was the last number?
29.
29. Scott Johnson. On for the last one. Bert de Kaiser, you get the last one. Thank you. All right, thanks everyone for coming along, and I hope you had a good night, and we'll see you in 2 months.